holding a meeting of the ASI Student Senate. Before we begin with roll call, I'll begin with a land acknowledgement. The Fresno State campus sits in the midst of the San Joaquin Valley, a valley rich in the traditions and representation of Native American peoples and cultures. We're grateful to be in the traditional homeland of the Yokuts and Mono people, whose diverse tribal communities share stewardship over this land. Thank you for joining me in this acknowledgement. We'll now move on to roll call. The Senate Recorder will take the roll call and please respond when your name is called.
President Saleh.
Here.
EVP Prado.
Here.
VPF Guzman.
Here.
VPEX Vu.
Here.
Senator Armstrong. Senator Camley.
Here.
Senator Carrillo. Senator Chobanian. Senator Durham.
Here.
Senator Guzman.
Here.
Senator Hassan.
Here.
Senator Hernandez.
Here.
Senator Hill.
Here.
Senator Martinez.
Here.
Senator Marcos.
Here.
Senator Morales.
Here.
Senator Pierce.
Here.
Senator Manfredia. Senator Rivera.
Here.
Senator Seavey.
Here.
Senator Singh.
Here.
And Senator Ving.
Here. Thank you, Senate Recorder. There are 3 executives present and 15 senators present. Quorum is met. We'll now proceed to item 3.0, public comment. Public comment is a time for any member of the public to address the Senate on issues affecting Associate Students, Inc. and/or California State University, Fresno. You can either address your concern live during the meeting at the allotted time, or you can send your comment ahead of time via email to asi-vice-president@mail.fresnostate.edu. We'll now open the floor to public comment. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to speak. If there is any public comment, please approach the podium. Seeing and hearing none, we shall now be moving on to action item 4.0, approval of the agenda. Is there a motion on the floor? Senator Durham?
I motion to approve the agenda.
Is there a second? Senator Rivera?
I'll second.
Are there any competing motions on the floor? Any discussion or debate? All those in favor to approve the agenda say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? The motion to approve the agenda for December 3rd, 2025 passes. We'll now open the floor on motions for item 5.0, approval of the minutes. The Senate will review the minutes from the ASI Student Senate meeting held on November 12th, 2025. Is there a motion on the floor? Senator Martinez?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Is there a second? Senator Hernandez?
I second.
Is there any competing motion on the floor? Any discussion or debate? Okay, all those in favor to approve the minutes say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? The motion to adopt the minutes passes. We'll now move on to item 6.0 reports. First item is 6.1, campus resource reports. Each speaker presenting a campus resource report will have 10 minutes to address the Student Senate. Are there any campus resource reports? Seeing and hearing none, we'll now move forward to item 6.2, campus administration reports. Each speaker presenting a campus administration report will have 3 minutes to address the Student Senate. Are there any campus administration reports? Seeing and hearing none, we'll now move on to item 7.0, new business. We'll be moving on to discussion item 7.1, scheduling preferences survey and class availability update. George Still, Associate Vice President for Institutional Effectiveness, will provide the Senate with an informational overview of the recent scheduling preference survey and share updates regarding class availability for the upcoming terms. This presentation will help senators better understand institutional planning efforts and how course scheduling aligns with student needs and academic demand. The presentation will be followed by time for questions and discussions. The Student Senate has allocated 15 minutes for this item and the floor is yours.
Do you have the presentation?
Yes,
Okay,
and then
perfect.
there's a clicker for you as well.
Okay, perfect. And I'll apologize ahead of time. My insulin pod is mad at me, so maybe. So, well, that is. Perfect. So I thank you all so much for giving some time today to talk about the scheduling survey, and hope to get some additional feedback from you all at the end of this. Just in terms of an overview of the survey, so we did this early September. 8,000 of your peers received that survey. We ended up with the 867 response rate, which is pretty solid for electronic distribution, a little bit over 10%, which is what we would anticipate. And I don't know that it's, there we go. So a little bit of demographics. So we ended up with a fairly even distribution of the survey across the class years, and also a little bit higher representation of female than men in the survey, which is fairly typical in terms of response rates, but just to give that as a demographic. To get into the survey results, so one of the things that I think was an aha moment for us as a university was the caregiving responsibility. So we asked you all in terms of if you had any form of caregiving responsibility, and we saw a pretty sizable response of students that actually indicated that as a responsibility. And so we wanted broader than just parents. So we wanted the idea of kinship care, elder care, that may be part of the student responsibility. So if you look at the valid response rate, that really it was split. So 50-50 between the two that reported that as an obligation. The second piece around that is students that reported working full-time, and so, or working in general. But our work for full-time exceeds the national rate by about 5%, and working overall exceeds the national rate by about 10%. So the national averages for full-time is about 12%, and the national average for work in general is just over 50%. And 67% of students indicated they worked in some capacity while also being a student. And you saw in the upper right part of that data are some of the ways that is impacting their ability to take classes while they're here. The commuting piece was another thing we weren't sure. We had done some work around geo-spacing, kind of looking at the commuting distance. And this survey actually validated what we had found in that kind of preliminary survey, which is that the bulk of students are commuting either 15 minutes or longer. And we know that that's going to have an impact on classes, because as all of us know, commuting around Fresno, that 15 minutes can be an hour. Certain days a week if certain things are happening. And that's kind of also concurrently one of the things we wanted to at least know and understand how that's going to then impact students' scheduling. So this is kind of getting into some of why that background mattered. And so if you look at the design of how this data is presented, so the green line is available for classes. The gray is indicating that time they have a family obligation, and then the gold or the top yellow is that they are working during that time period. And so the availability for courses typically actually follows what would be a traditional K-12 kind of day. So the kind of 8:30 to 3 o'clock is kind of the prime time availability for when you are reporting available for classes, is what the survey was showing. Which also kind of aligns with prime time classes, but we know that that's going to create issues in terms of if a class deviates in terms of their offering around that particular point in time. The modality preference, this came in terms of that in-person classes were the #1 response, pretty overwhelmingly. And then back up to that then is fully online courses, with hybrid classes being the lower requested kind of options. And so this was a rank order question, so students then indicated the order that they preferred to take them that way. And so when you look at the sum of #1 or #2 is that online or in person really amounted for the vast majority of that. And then the high flex hybrid classes were the lowest requested course schedule, or course request associated with that. We asked and we know availability is different than preference. And we know we want to explore more around preferred number of days. But part of what I think the survey was showing is that students could commit to 5 days if they were within the hours that they were primarily available as that. And that was 41% of students indicated that they could be available 5 days for classes as part of that data that's there. So one of the big findings in the survey was that that students indicated that they were unable to get the number of classes they wanted to be full-time, or 15 credit hours. So that was one of the pieces that we knew, and 40% indicated that. Preferred unit total is then here. So right now we have about 32% of students that are able to build a schedule of 15 units, and 43% in the survey indicate they want 15 units. So we know that there is an opportunity gap around students getting to that 15 unit threshold to the tune of about 10% of what we're seeing. The prevention piece, the number one issue is time of day, or the course conflicts being the number one. The number two, work obligations, family obligations, personal obligations came in number three as the reason why they could not do that. So the big thing, which is probably a surprise to no one in this room, that you all hate the registration process. So that was clear in the survey data that it's difficult to register and actually get the classes that you want and need. So that we take that back and know that that's some work we need to do around just updating and kind of making the registration process easier for you all. And so some of the challenges are listed here. So classes filling up too quickly, class schedule conflicts being the second, and then not enough online options being kind of the third thing that came in as the top three associated with the reason why that the registration process is so difficult. So here's where I think there's an opportunity. So part of what, great opportunity to be in front of students. I'm kind of curious in terms of how this aligns with what either you have experienced and also that you hear from your peers. And we also, I'm joined today by our Dean of Undergraduate Studies, so she's here to kind of listen and take notes and kind of respond to anything that she may have associated with that. So if you have specific examples or things that have happened or you're hearing happen that we can take back and work on as university administrators, I would love to hear you all's feedback around that. I don't know how much time we have left. But.
Do any senators have any questions or comments? Senator Sevi?
Hi, thank you for coming here today. I do have actually a lot of questions. I'll start with the most recent ones. I'm in the arts and humanities, and so I've got a big range of majors and departments there. And today I was just speaking with a student and a faculty member from the music department. And they shared with me, because I asked if there was anything they wanted to share since we're having this meeting today and discussing this topic, issues with, they have like an entire third of a cohort who cannot do a required prerequisite class because another section is not being offered, which means they cannot move forward in their major. They also aren't able to have their concert hall for their finals because of things like cost. And they've been scheduling finals since October. Students have had to give their final performances in October. They have 2/3 of the class that can't come to the scheduled in-person meeting because they can't even put it on the schedule when they register for that class. It's just an ad hoc, well, we'll just see what we can make happen. So I'm wondering, for the departments and the majors that aren't more mainstream, how are they being included in these conversations about scheduling, class availability, transportation, and all of that when it's so very specific to those classes and those majors?
We know, and everybody, if you have any addition, we know that facility access is an ongoing issue, and I think especially in the, right now, really this campus is full from 11 to 1 pretty much every day of the week from what has been scheduled in those spaces. That those are definitely one of the larger, I think, realities that's facing. And the barrier to 15 units, if you look at our fill, that as a campus, we're 78% full in terms of the number of available seats, the number of students in seats, is that we know right now that one of our big problems is the classes we're offering don't always align with the classes that students need. And that is something we're actively trying to wrap our heads around the data to make sure we're more diagnostic. I think that specific example is definitely one that is a dean-specific challenge that the Dean of the College of Arts and Humanities I know is aware, but I think that solution has to come by that dean. I don't know if you have.
Yeah, I do have just a question regarding the prereq course. Do you know which one that is?
It was the piano prerequisite. They had to do a piano proficiency, and they said about 75 students need to do it.
Okay.
They only have the capacity, both with like sections offered, to do 75, to do 50 of those 75.
Okay.
And the other 25 are kind of left
Okay.
hanging.
Okay.
And so I figured I'd bring it up because
Please.
they said an extra section would probably alleviate that problem, but
Okay.
we're talking about, class availability in general.
Yes, absolutely.
So I
And
figured I'd ask
appreciate
you.
knowing that, so I'm gonna
Yeah.
begin working on that right now.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Mhm.
So Dean, more specifically,
But
is,
we'll definitely go back. We'll set up a time to talk to.
Yeah, so in this case, Dean, we're referencing Dean Chapman.
Yes,
Dean of
yes.
the Arts and Humanities, because I'm a dean also, so.
Yeah.
But undergraduate studies, that's my area, so I'll work with Dean Chapman to bring these issues forward again. I'll work on that in this meeting. But any of these things, if there's anything whatsoever that you're finding in any of your majors or any of those kinds of things, please reach out to me directly. I'm working specifically on student matters, whether it's advising, access issues, academic, academic supports, mental health supports, wherever it is. If you do not know where to go on campus, email me, I will get you to the right place. So share my email, it's perfectly fine. We also have a generic email. My email is bmuscat, that's B as in boy, M as in Michael, USCAT, and then at. And then we also have a generic email address at Path to Success, that's all one word, and then at, of course. Those all come to me as well, and so anything that comes in either my email directly or Path to Success, that comes to me as well, and I'm getting students to the appropriate place. So it doesn't matter how many of you need assistance, I'm here for you. Please reach out to me. I will do what I can to address your concerns in a timely manner.
Thank you so
Your
much.
voice is so needed, so thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Senator Martinez?
Hi, I was curious, did you guys ask the students about what majors they were in the study?
We have the major data.
You guys do? Okay.
So, with 800 responses, our big majors, we would be able to extrapolate down to that, but, obviously small majors, I would be concerned about that. We have a dashboard set up for this that I can make available to any of you all if you would like to look at it. And that we've already taken it down to the college level, so we look at some of these from a college level, and actually just came from the College of Social Sciences where we were talking about the data for that particular college. So yeah, that is available.
Yeah.
If you have some more specific.
Yeah, just because I'm sure it differs from major to major,
Yeah.
these issues. And I have a couple of examples that I've heard in the last 3 weeks I've been speaking to students. Well, for one, I have two students who I spoke to who are transfer students, so they transfer to Fresno State this semester.
Yes.
And and I'm Craig School Business Senator, so this is a business matter. And so they are both marketing majors, they transferred here, and so they were very confused when they said that dog days was not helpful. They received terrible classes, they weren't able to get into the classes they needed, so they were already behind. They were only able to get into 14 units. Or something like that, 12 units. And then they told me that this semester they have not been reached out to by a single academic advisor. No one's told them like what to do for this one. So they are literally, it's been 2-3 weeks since registration, and they have not registered for classes. And I told them, I'm like, I hate to tell you, but there's probably gonna be nothing open. And I looked at their roadmap. I personally helped them register for classes, and I was only able to get them into 2 classes, and one of them was not able to get into IS 52, which is an essential class for business students. Every single business student needs to take that class. It's one of those pre-business classes that you then have to declare your major once you pass it. So they weren't able to get into that class, so she's going to be set back probably another semester if she cannot take it, because the classes, she can't move forward without that class. She can't declare her major without that class, and if you can't declare your major, you can't then register for marketing classes that she needs. So, and that, it's, unfortunately, it's not like it's not a co-rec thing, it's a pre-rec thing.
Yeah.
So my question is, like, could we possibly go back and fix or allow students to take classes co-rec versus make it a pre-rec, because this is gonna set her back another semester on top of what she already was trying to catch up on from the previous registration.
Sure. And one, if and when you speak that student again, make sure that they go on the wait list for that class.
It's closed.
Is it closed? We, reach Still, STILL, send me an email and we'll work on that for that particular student. But we are, so one of the things the university just received was a new grant that's looking specifically at scheduling. And we have actually just developed a new diagnostic tool to look at prerequisite and co-requisites and the amount of dependencies that classes are built around. And so that is something that as a university we are actively tackling and really kind of, I think, pushing back to faculty to really examine whether that is a necessity prerequisite or whether it's a would prefer students to type prerequisite. But definitely I think we want that not to be the experience of the students. If we can do anything, I think, to work to get the class open up, that we will, but I think part of that is knowing the number of students that are being affected by that same thing.
Yeah.
So we'll look at that immediately. If you can get either Dr. Buscat or I an email, we'll start on that tomorrow.
Yeah, for sure. And again, these were marketing major students. And then on the contrary, I spoke to somebody who's in arts and humanities. He's a broadcast major. He registered for classes over Thanksgiving break. So obviously passed his registration date. And he said he was able to get into all his classes, no problem. He got his dream schedule, he got everything. So it does vary from student to student.
Yeah.
These business majors, business is a very big major on campus, very compacted. And so I just noticed that all of these prereqs are a big issue for students. Even for me, I had to take on a minor just so that I can register for more classes because I was being held up by a prereq. So I would love to see some of these prereqs turn into co-reqs, or, if we can add some more sections to these mandatory classes.
Sure, and one of the things we know, and that I also would like to make sure that we're tackling in the data, is knowing from students freshman year in the spaces. So health and human services is actually the same model as you all, is where we have a filtered pre-major, is that we don't know, we can't anticipate what the pathway is for those students in the kind of current curricular design as easily as we should. And so it creates a huge bottleneck when, in business, we don't know where all those students are wanting to go. And I know that there's some degree of filtering, so accountancy is often the most selective of that and so you need to be at a certain academic level to get into that, but we need to kind of know, at least anticipate what that pathway looks like. Nursing, we know, is often in health the number one choice, but we don't really know from there how many students are planning to go into the other pathways. So we know that that's one of our big problems with kind of creating, being mandated by these accreditors to create these pre-major pathways. So that's something that we'll also concurrently work. Hopefully that will help so that your experience and these other peer experiences aren't the same.
Yeah, and then one last comment. I also do notice that, again, in IS 52 and in Management 110, those are two very big classes that the business college offers. And I noticed that, and I notice a lot too in other classes when there's a lab portion or an activity portion, there's always way more labs and activities being offered versus the number of sections that are offered. Is there a reason why that is?
Well, and I think it's to make sure students, that it fits their time of day. And I think it's also if they are able to open an additional section, then make sure that there's enough subsequent lab or concurrent lab options to be able to do that.
Okay.
Any additional questions or comments? Senator Hill?
Yeah, just more generally speaking, has the faculty hiring rate met the pace with all the? I know we keep talking about record increases in student population, or that are being here. Is that something that's being addressed to try and solve the problem in terms of just doing more hiring?
Yes, I think that there were approvals for, I say, 15 or so faculty hires this current year. Yeah, so we are looking at that actively. It is obviously hard with the state budget compression, but no, we are, and the enrollment pieces are what drives that. So understanding what the enrollment pathways are and where we know we need that based upon major enrollments is how that's been prioritized. So in places where there clearly is a need for additional faculty because the majors exceed the current faculty load, that's obviously the best that we can do with that. I mean, the reality is that, you know, if we were, I think we're made whole by the budget, that number would probably be more than double, I think, what we're hiring for.
Thank you.
And then if we have additional questions, if we can get a motion to extend time. Senator Hazan,
I motion to extend the time by 5 minutes.
and then a second, Senator Martinez.
Second.
Any competing motions? Any discussion or debate? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? We'll extend time by 5 minutes, and then any additional questions or comments now? Senator Hazan.
If there's a demand to add an extra course for a GE class, will that demand be met?
Yes.
And if not added, what is the probability of being able to amend the time for a certain section? Good question, kind of.
Do you want me to say that?
Yes, I think that.
Yeah, okay, so I monitor what we call additional university graduation requirements, or AUGRs, as well as GEs. Pretty much on a daily basis to see what's needed and how they're filling and where we have bottlenecks in those areas. As I see bottlenecks occur, then I work with the departments to add those classes. So for right now, we have about 100 students on a wait list for Poli-Sci 2. I'm working to open 2 classes as we speak right now. So hopefully within the next day, we'll be able to open one. Once that fills, and if there's still demand, a second one will open. So that occurs daily throughout the registration period, and then up until when classes begin. So that's how we work through those areas. And then I didn't understand your second question. I apologize.
With regard to amending the time section, so let's say if it was at a certain time that didn't work with student schedules, would it be possible to change it to a time that does work with their schedules?
We can't change, once a class goes live, or once it's on, actually before it goes live, once it's open for students to see, we have no changes to that schedule at all. Because while that may not work for a few students, there are also students who've committed to that based on that being a time that's preferable for them. At this point, given that we see that there's demand, but we aren't sure where your schedules rest, we try to open fully online classes so that it doesn't compete with existing courses that you may already have.
Thank you.
But partially, actually, both your questions. One of the things that we'll talk about tomorrow is how we gauge, because one of the things that is different by college is how wait lists are managed. But we need to be able to gauge where student demand is. So we'll talk about how best to try to get there, and I would love to at least send that digitally to see if that works with how you think students are going to respond to that.
Yeah, and I'd like to add one other thing for that. One of the challenges that we have is we may see demand, but just because we open a class, that may not be a preferred class. And so that becomes problematic for us also, that, you know, we can open a class, students aren't taking it, it sits idle, we've got a lot of students on waiting lists, but no one's taking that. Then it becomes a difficult situation for us that we can't just keep opening classes to try and address that there might be 50 or 100 on a wait list. In a circumstance like political science 2, that's a pretty easy one. All the 100 are waiting for a Poli-Sci 2 class. But when we've got something like Area 6 ethnic studies, and we've got maybe 100 on a wait list, and I open, as an example, AFRS 10, those 100 may not take that class. And there's not really, even if it's in an online format, they still may not take that class. And so I can't keep opening classes despite seeing a demand until that class can fill. Once that class fills, if there's a continued demand in that area, I'll look to open another class. So that's a bit of a difficulty with this, because it's hard to predict what all of you will take, despite the fact that I see a lot of students on wait lists for a particular area. I don't see it per section per se, although sometimes I do, and one of the issues that was brought up is, well, there's no wait list for that section, and that is something that some departments do, that they don't put a wait list on their classes. So that makes it difficult for me to know which particular one students might be interested in. And I do not do that for major courses at all, because within major courses, there's a possibility that a department could substitute one class for another. I don't know all the nuances of curriculum at a department level to be able to make those determinations. So if that's the situation, you need to reach out to the departments, or again, the students can reach out to me and I'll work through their department to see if there are alternative. Sometimes there are and sometimes there are not. If it's an accredited program, sometimes that becomes more difficult. And if it's not, there's usually a little bit of flexibility. Thank you. Thank you.
Senator Singh?
So, sort of questions, sort of suggestions for the
We love
registration.
suggestions.
Okay. One of the things I was thinking about as hearing the questions and stuff being talked about was if there were ways to maybe be able to make better decisions for prioritizing what classes we register for during the semester, because I know there are certain classes that are only offered in spring or only offered in fall, and the only way to figure that out is to go to like the catalog, which is a whole different place. But like if there was a way to be scrolling through classes and seeing fall only, and it's something that you have to take, maybe you want to prioritize that one on your list instead of finding out next semester that it's not offered, right? So just another way to help people prioritize. Or if it's one of those courses where, like with Poli-Sci 2, where you can open up more sections, like have it noted like, hey, if there's no available courses, contact this person so that we can order, get more sections. But another thing that I thought would be a good idea is, I did my Poli-Sci at City. Is there not a way to do this with more of the GEs, where like, hey, we're all full here, but this exact same class you can take at Fresno City? And then that could be another pathway to get people, like, because we've had people from Fresno City and stuff here in our classes through like some kind of agreement. Cross dual enrollment, I'm not really sure what it was called. But why can't it work the other way to help students get their GEs when they need them? I don't know. I feel like we work really closely with the State Center Community College District. That might be another avenue to help with that burden of the GE classes.
Yes, and actually up to 60 units, correct, can be taken at another institution. And so that would include the community colleges. I think partially, one, I appreciate your first suggestion. I think both those are doable. I think we just need to repackage advising. And we do know, our advisor to student ratio is about 800 to 1. So part of it is how do we do this at scale, given and we recognize those as potential issues, and we're working on software, I think, as a solution to help with some of that, and make sure that we're very intentional in the way that we reach out and using text to send targeted messages to students so they understand that. And part of what the CSU as a whole is looking at is how do we revamp CSU Online to also make sure that it's easier to access your financial aid to pay for a class at the student CSU than it is the community colleges, which is part of the barrier, right? So we're working to how do we increase our repertoire for online offerings that as a CSU, as a system, we can make sure we're meeting student demand. So that is actively part of the systemness work that has been happening for the last year.
Awesome. Well, that's good to know, because my husband currently goes to Clovis Community College, and like I just was helping him register, and I was like, man, this system's a little bit better than the Fresno State's. Like, you can see so much information before you even open up the class and read the little blurbs about them, and and you can see about multiple campuses all in one spot. So it makes it easier.
Yeah, no, the State Center has that well.
Yes, it's different from when I went there, but yeah, and I was like, maybe Fresno State can look at just the way that ours is set up and see about getting more information right on the list before having to be like, oh, add to cart, look at this, compare, do that. Like, it can be a lot for students, especially if they're freshmen.
Yeah.
And then having little notes like, oh, this one's also offered at a community college. Maybe talk to an advisor to help with those classes that are impacted.
Senator Martinez?
One also comment / suggestion is, I really do think that we should cater a little bit more to like our freshmen and transfer students, because I just noticed how much they struggle with getting into classes. They're new from going to a close community or going to our community college to a city college to then a campus like Fresno State. Totally different systems, like you just heard. So I think like in terms of the advisor issue, because that ratio is rough. I think we should put emphasis on transfer students, make sure that they are getting seen by advisors, because an advisor has not reached out to me in 2 years, since I was a sophomore, was the last time I spoke to an advisor, but I think I've been doing just fine, I hope I'm still set to graduate next semester, but yeah, I think there came a point where I started to really understand, I got really acquainted with Fresno State, so I think I don't need to see an advisor as far as I'm concerned, but transfer students, they really should be being reached out to, and they should be one of those first 300, 500 that those advisors see. Just a thought.
Okay. And we'll and actually also the oversees all the advising process. So we'll evaluate that as much as we can to hopefully help with. We know those are problems and those are pain points for students, and so trying to make it as I think best experience as possible for you all is definitely important.
Thank you for coming to speak with us today, and we appreciate the work both of you do at Fresno State.
Yeah, feel free. Fourth floor library, we're both on the 4th floor, so stop by. Doors are always open, so happy to set up time to talk further. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now be moving on to discussion item 7.2, Tech Lending Department Overview. Alexander Durant, Head of Tech Lending, will provide the Senate with an informational overview of the technology resources and services available to students, including equipment checkout, support programs, and opportunities for collaboration with ASI. The presentation will be followed by time for questions and discussion. The Student Senate has allocated 15 minutes for this item, and the floor is yours.
Everyone can hear me okay? Hi everyone, I'm happy to be here today with all of you to talk about tech lending. My name is Alexander Durant. I've been the head of the tech lending department for the past 3 years. And then for this, I just want to go over some parts about tech lending, some of the material we check out, some parts about the department, and then some things that we can do to collaborate with ASI. So if anyone does not know about tech lending, we are a department on the 1st floor of the library, and we check out materials to students and faculty on campus, and also answer questions to patrons, including how to connect to the Wi-Fi, questions about their laptops, and how to use our cameras. So for checking out materials, any student and faculty on campus can check out our materials at the desk, and we also have an online checkout system. I've also provided a QR code that takes you to the website for online requests. These online requests allow students and faculty to place a request for any item we have, and if we have it available at that moment, we'll place it on hold for the patron. And if we don't have it, we have an online wait list we can add them to. And this wait list also helps us see demand for some of our devices as those come throughout the semester. So here I've listed some of the popular equipment we have. So we have 2 main categories, long-term items and short-term. So for the long-term ones, that's going to be our laptops, headphones, calculators, and things like that. And these ones are checked out for the entire semester. So when a patron checks it out, they get it up until the end of the semester, and then they have to return it. And these ones cannot be renewed into future semesters. Then we have our short-term items, including our cameras, chargers, and projectors. And these ones are going to be a week checkout. But with these, if a patron needs to use it longer, we can renew it for them as long as we have some in stock. So usually if someone checks out a camera, they may need it for multiple weeks. As long as we have some available, we can keep checking out for that patron. With all this, I provided some data about our checkout materials. So this is some examples from the last year, including some of our popular items. So our laptops, calculators, and projectors, as well as I put some noteworthy data on the side about it. So some things is for our laptops, we usually check out around 900 per year. And any materials you don't see, those usually are around 100 or less checkouts. So some smaller items like our mice and things are not checked out as commonly. So those are usually smaller checkouts. One big thing to mention is the online requests. Usually through our online system, we get around 1,900 requests total. We usually are not able to meet the demand of all these requests, mostly in the laptop category. So there's around 700 requests per year that we're just not able to complete because we don't have the items before the semester ends. Most of these are going to be the laptops, and then a few calculators and tablets that we don't have in time. So for the future of TechLane, we want to try to get more total laptops, as well as more calculators and more other devices, and that's something we hope to do with ASI, as this is something we see a lot of demand in from a lot of students. We're also looking to get in other devices such as 3D printers and cameras. We've actually just purchased our 3D printers, so those are going to be out soon. And then we're looking into getting new camera models that meet the current models that are on the market. So that's everything I want to go over first. So that's all I have for the slides.
Does any senator have any questions for presenting today? Senator Martinez?
I just had a quick question. So for those 700 who don't get to use a laptop, are they, let's say if they are here for next semester, they again need a laptop, are they put on like a priority registration list? Do you guys somehow keep note of that?
We don't usually, because there's such a large demand. We try to do a first come, first serve. So we usually start the wait list at the start of the semester. So this semester started that first day of classes in August. And then on December 19th at the end of the semester, all those wait list requests are going to be removed, and we're going to start a new one next semester. If someone does need something, they can reach to us directly, and we can set up certain things to help them check out a material early.
Okay.
Any additional questions? Senator Sevi?
Hi guys. I was happy to see you here. Okay, I've been there, I've seen how quickly things run out. And the difference between the long-term and the short-term loans, I was wondering, do you think it could possibly help if you had some long-term items specifically set aside for short-term loans?
We actually did recently change that. We
You
have
did?
some short-term laptops from this semester that we've started doing, based on feedback like that. So.
Okay, because I mean, there have been times where it's like, I just need a calculator for today.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So, okay, that's good.
So we are looking into that actually actively to try to help those days where you just have like a test or something, you want to check out an item, and unfortunately we're already out. We're trying to remedy that.
Okay, awesome. Okay, love that. Second thing was, for, I know you have different, like I guess tiers of laptops, different models. Some are better, some are not as, maybe older. Is there plans to maybe kind of even out those, like kind of get all of your laptops on the same sort of operating and performance standards? Or is that something that's less of a priority?
There's some priority. We're trying to get a lot of them. So we have basic, mid-range, and high-end laptops. We're trying to get a lot of the basic ones to match the same as our mid-range and kind of combine those two. But we still want to leave the high range as their own, because those are usually ones with like a GPU and they're a lot more expensive. And there's only usually around 15 students that need it per semester, like people in graphic design. So we want you to keep those separate.
Okay.
But the rest we are trying to combine and try to make them all just higher quality for students.
Okay, perfect. Those are the only questions I had. Thank you.
Any additional questions or comments?
Would you find any merit to maybe adding like, no, it sounds stupid, but like flip phones to your catalog?
We hadn't thought about that.
Because I do know a couple students who genuinely don't have phones and don't have the means of, calling or receiving texts, or or even like a student who breaks a phone and is just MIA for a week until they get a new one. I was thinking it might be something that does have some with
That is a good one. Yeah. We have not thought about that before, but that could be something to look into, because that sounds very helpful if people don't have phones.
There we go.
Yeah.
Any additional questions or comments? Seeing and hearing none, thank you for coming to present to us today. I appreciate the work you do.
Thank you all.
We'll now be moving on to action item 7.3, funding for tech lending expansion. Senator Hill will request $11,000 in funding to support the expansion of the tech lending program, including $10,000 for computers and $1,000 for calculators. The item was brought to the Senate floor following a conversation with the Executive Committee, and the Senate will consider approving this funding to enhance student access to essential academic technology. The Student Senate has allocated 20 minutes for this item, and the floor is yours.
Okay, guys, I'm not going to try and run this too long. Alex, I've been in coordination with him, and he basically described a lot of the need already. It's pretty evident that people need these. There's hundreds of students waiting, and those are just the people that are on the wait list. Also today, we just got President Saleh found out that with the meeting with Dean Crum that we will get it matched for another $10,000 for them to help support us. And so we've been working on that as a group. Brought it to exec. They said bring it to you guys. So the models we're looking at are about $500 because we want to support students who are going from nothing to something. You want to have the baseline of get Canvas, get Gmail, get Google Docs. That's the essential. The high end would be nice, but we want to get as many people computers as possible to make that big difference. Other than that, though, that's, yeah, so now we're up at, I think, $21,000 now.
Nice.
I'll now open the floor for any questions or comments. Senator Martinez?
For those lower end laptops, are they cheaper than say an iPad? Because if you need something just for Canvas, could they not just get an iPad?
It's mixed, but it's also coordinated with, there's a specific set of laptops that tech lending requires and uses, and so that was something that I went to coordinate. I know ASI has been involved with iPads and exact pricing, but the demand right now is for laptops, and they are pretty cheap. I mean, they're about it's like $450. And so compared to more of an older iPad, it kind of depends. But the demand is shown for laptops, and that's really just standard.
Senator Durham?
So kind of piggybacking off of that, with the iPads, it is harder. This is tech lending. I love the tech lending office. But with the iPad, it's harder because when you get into a class, you may have a program that is not able to run on the iPad. I've run into that multiple times, like with history in the history department, and it's been very stressful. So the iPad's kind of like, they're helpful, but they don't give the students everything.
Probably like note taking, but not really.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any additional questions or comments, Senator Seti?
So the total with the matching from who did you say that was?
Dean Crum with the library.
Okay, so that would give what, around 40 laptops?
Yeah.
Okay. Have we gone through some of the numbers to see how many more requests that might be able to, or with the unmet need that Alex was just talking about, how much that would be impacted by having, or reduced by having these extra 40?
What do you mean, like the next 40 people on the wait list, or?
Right, so how many current total laptops does the tech lending have? Do we know that?
I know the demand is over 200 right now for people on the wait list currently, and so that would go straight towards helping with that.
Right, okay. Next question, I'll just move to the next question. For the calculators, are we looking at graphing calculators, or are we just some simple scientific calculators?
The standard ones that are given out with or through the library, through tech lending, just more to support what the standard is with them
The
already.
standard technique, okay. That's it, thank you.
Thank you.
And then any additional questions or comments? Senator Payne?
Excuse me if this is a redundant question, but I wanted to know if there's any specific brands of laptops that you guys would be purchasing. Would it be mainly Apple, Microsoft? Because I know sometimes with Apple, it's kind of hard to work on Excel, or it's coming from a business student. It's kind of hard to open other websites and all of that.
Yeah, so what I've done to develop this proposal was coordinate with, I call him Colin, I'm forgetting his last name, but he's the guy who works with tech lending, and he has the standard recommended brands, and it's a laptop that runs on Windows. I know that issue with Apple is a pretty prominent one with their products, and so it's the standard, the most requested, and it's the one that integrates with their system for Fresno State to be able to work with it.
Any additional questions or comments? Senator Seti?
One last one. Promise, this one's easy. How did we come to the 10,000 for laptops and 1,000 for calculators? What brought us to that number?
It just that was advised when I went to executive meeting. We bumped up from 5,000 to 10,000.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Any additional questions or comments? Seeing and hearing none, I'll now open the floor for motions on item 7.3, funding for tech lending expansion. Senator Seti?
I move to approve.
Is there a second? Senator Hernandez?
Second.
Okay. Are there any competing motions on the floor? Okay. And then we will do a roll call vote to approve this project, starting with Senator Armstrong.
Yes.
Senator Kimley?
Yes.
Senator Carrillo,
Yes.
Senator Chavanian,
Yes.
Senator Durham,
Yes.
Senator Guzman,
Yes.
Senator Kazan,
Yes.
Senator Hernandez,
Yes.
Senator Hill,
Yes.
Senator Martinez,
Yes.
Senator Marcos,
Yes.
Senator Nellis,
Yes.
Senator Pierce,
Yes.
Senator Renteria,
Yes.
Senator Rivera,
Yes.
Senator Sevi,
Yes.
Senator Singh,
Yes.
and Senator Ving.
Yes.
With the unanimous yes count vote, the motion to approve $11,000 passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now be moving on to action item 7.4, course availability resolution. This resolution, presented by ASI President Saleh, calls on the Academic Senate, academic departments, and university administration to prioritize student needs when creating class schedules by offering additional course sections, providing appropriate course substitutions, scheduling classes at times and days that align with the student preferences, and increasing online course availability. Improving access to flexible scheduling options will support timely graduation and better reflect the real-life responsibilities students balance outside the classroom. The Student Senate has allocated 10 minutes for this item, and the floor is yours.
I'm sorry for the long description, guys. Now for a resolution, which I will be reading every word. So as EVP Prado mentioned, this is a resolution to increase course availability. So, whereas Associate Student Inc. ASI is the officially elected voice of the student body and is charged with representing student needs and advocating for their academic success. And whereas students across the campus have increasingly reported difficulty registering for the courses they need, often falling short of the 15 units required to graduate in 4 years. And whereas during Dog Days orientation, 343 students left without full schedules due to a lack of available course sections. And whereas the average student at California State University, Fresno, enrolls in only 12.6 units per semester, and the graduation rate remains low at 27.6% for the fall 2021 cohort, with an average of just 26.6% over the past 6 years. And whereas limited course offerings, scheduling conflicts, and the lack of online or flexible instructional modalities create barriers that disproportionately impact students who balance work, caregiving responsibilities, long commutes, or other external obligations, and whereas timely access to required courses significantly reduces both time to degree and total student debt, enabling students to enter the workforce sooner. And whereas the university is projected to experience continued enrollment growth with fall 2025 enrollment already at 103% of fall 2024 levels, making expanded course availability essential to accommodate the increasing student population. And whereas according to CourseDog, an academic operations and scheduling platform, quote, course schedules are often built without student needs put at the forefront. Instead of putting faculty preferences and convenience first, faculty availability was almost unanimously rated by study participants as the most important factor in scheduling, with data from student plans of study coming in last, end quote. And whereas increasing the availability, flexibility, and diversity of course offerings promotes equitable access, particularly for historically underserved first-generation international and non-traditional students. Therefore, it is resolved that Associated Students Inc. ASI advocate to the Academic Senate, academic departments, and university administration for improved course availability and scheduling practices that prioritize student needs. Be it further resolved that the university increase the number of course sections offered each term to ensure that all students have the opportunity to enroll in at least 15 units per semester, with an estimated need for approximately 250 additional sections to meet current student demand. Be it further resolved that departments provide appropriate course substitutions where feasible to support students in completing degree requirements on time. Be it further resolved that the university expand access to high-demand courses by increasing the flexibility of course scheduling and delivery options to support students' varied responsibilities. Be it further resolved that the university expand access to high-demand courses by increasing the flexibility of course scheduling and delivery options to support students' varied responsibilities. Be it further resolved that departments schedule a great proportion of courses during student-preferred time blocks, specifically between 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Monday through Friday, in order to reflect student trends and reduce schedule conflicts. Be it further resolved that the university invest in expanded instructional space, including additional classrooms, late start sections, and enhanced online learning infrastructure to support increased course section availability. Be it recommended that the university review prerequisite, co-requisite, and scheduling barriers that limit on-time enrollment and ensure that course structures and expectations are communicated clearly and implemented consistently across departments. And then be it finally resolved, and then wherever it's being distributed, everyone listed, it will be distributed to. thank you. If you have any questions, I am happy to take them, and Dr. Still has offered to stay, or I asked him really nicely.
Are there any questions or comments? Senator Sim.
This kind of goes back to, was it George Still, the first one? Hi. The only thing I really have a question about is that demand time between 9 and 3. And I'm wondering, based on the survey and then what's in here, did we separate out kind of who was asking for those times and like who's going to be benefiting most from those course availabilities? I'm a mom, and I've gone to school working full time, and evening classes were what would have helped me. So I'm curious if we've separated out who would most benefit from those time availabilities of 9 to 3 during the weekdays.
It is consistent. It's highest for caregiving, but it is consistent regardless of kind of target group. So
Okay.
so even when you compare caregivers to others, I mean it drops from it goes up to 83, but it's like 83 compared to like 67. So I mean the curve stays the same
Okay.
regardless of how we filter it. Yeah, but I think part of it is we can't have a one size all fits approach.
Right. Right.
Which is part of I think the resolution that has the student centered piece of the schedule, where it's faculty preference to teach on Tuesday, Thursday, so then a whole department's only on Tuesday, Thursday. That creates a huge problem for you all.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I mean it isn't. I mean I do think that reaches the need of 70% of students consistently,
Okay.
regardless of filter group.
Good. I know. I meant to ask it earlier and I forgot about it. So thank you for clarifying. Otherwise, I love it. Thank you.
Any additional questions or comments? Seeing and hearing none, we'll now open the floor for motions on item 7.4, course availability resolution. Is there a motion? Senator Durham.
I motion to approve.
Is there a second? Senator Hazan.
I second.
Are there any competing motions? Any discussion or debate? Okay. We'll do a roll call vote starting with Senator Armstrong.
Yes.
Senator Camley.
Yes.
Senator Carrillo.
Yes.
Senator Chovanian.
Yes.
Senator Durham.
Yes.
Senator Guzman.
Yes.
Senator Hazan.
Yes.
Senator Hernandez.
Yes.
Senator Hill.
Yes.
Senator Martinez.
Yes.
Senator Marcos.
Yes.
Senator Anales.
Yes.
Senator Pierce.
Yes.
Senator Renteria.
Yes.
Senator Rivera.
Yes.
Senator Sevi.
Yes.
Senator Singh.
Yes.
And Senator Ving.
Yes.
With the unanimous yes count vote, the motion passes to pass the resolution.
Thank you, guys.
We'll now be moving into action item 7.5, non-resident tuition resolution. This resolution presented by External Affairs Committee member Cody Jarvis, will also later be presented at CSSA, urges the CSU to prioritize affordability for all enrolled students by placing caps on non-resident tuition fees. The Student Senate has allocated 10 minutes for this item, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Chair and members of the Senate, once again, for those who don't know me, my name is Cody Jarvis, and I am an External Affairs Committee member. Today I'm here as the main author of the resolution to advocate for reforms to non-resident tuition fees. For those who do not know what non-resident tuition fees are, they are typically an extra fee on top of regular tuition fees for those students who may live out of state or are international students. The authority to adopt those fees from within the CSU system lies solely with the Chancellor in accordance with Title V 41900. Currently, the fees stand at $444 per unit, which is a $48 or a 12% increase in non-resident tuition fees in the last 2 years. Now, just to put that in comparison, State Center Community College District, which is Clovis, Fresno City, Reedley, and Madera Community College, charges $350 or $355 per unit, which is $89 less than the CSU non-resident tuition fees, which is concerning for those non-resident students who may be wanting to transfer from one of our local community colleges to Fresno State. Another point of concern that we discussed in the External Affairs Committee is that if we keep on raising our non-resident tuition fees for our international students, how are they supposed to afford an education? International students, not only here at Fresno State, but across the country, are limited to jobs that are on campus or jobs that are related to their field of study. And if they are able to find a job, it's stacks of paperwork that has to be filled out, all while they're required under federal law to be enrolled in at least 12 units. Now, in the state of California, through AB 540, we make certain exemptions to non-resident tuition fees, especially for undocumented students. But if you have seen the news recently, the federal government has sued the state of California over this law, calling into question the future of these exemptions. Now, I have a friend who's an AB 540 student who got accepted into another CSU. But due to that college's costs, including housing, he could not afford to go. Instead, he has decided to enroll here next semester at Fresno State. But if his AB 540 exemption gets taken from him, how will he be able to afford an education here? AB 540 students are not the only ones under attack here. Let's not also forget that across this country right now, there are international students getting their visas stripped from them and being deported for engaging in free speech. We might not know it, but every day on this campus, every single one of us interacts with an international student or an undocumented student or an out-of-state student. And as student leaders here on this campus, we have the responsibility to protect these students by being advocates for good public policy. That's why the External Affairs Committee has brought this resolution before this body today that, if passed, resolved that the Fresno State Associated Students, Inc. advocate to the California State University Board of Trustees, the California State University Chancellor's Office, and the California State Legislature for regulatory and/or legislative action that will reform non-resident tuition fees to be set in a gradual, moderate, and predictable way, like the community college system does. And resolve that the Fresno State Associated Students, Inc. advocate to the Cal State Student Association to work with cross-system partners such as the Student Senate for California Community Colleges and the UC Student Association to get legislation that will reform non-resident tuition fees and potentially cap how much each segment can increase non-resident tuition by each year. And I will end with this. One of my favorite quotes comes from President Biden, and that is, "We do not solely lead by the example of our power, but by the power of our example." The CSU system is the nation's largest, most diverse public four-year higher education system in the nation. And we as a system must show that 49 other states in this country that we will accept their residents along with international and undocumented students into our higher education system, where we will give them a state-of-the-art education at an affordable price. We all have a stake in this advocacy work, not only as student leaders, but both as the consumer and the product of the system. That's why I urge a yes vote on this resolution. With that, Chair, I yield.
Are there any questions or comments? Sanderson.
As someone who has looked in other states and had to consider what they charge in other universities for wanting to move there and get an education, this does very much strike home to me, because people don't have if I want to go with, if say I want to take here, we have some really well-known, well-respected programs. Charging extra for somebody to come from out of state or from another country because they want to be here just seems kind of wild to me. But my only question is, how do you counteract the the rhetoric around, well, it's those international fees that kind of pad up our coffers? Where do we find, we're already struggling with budget, and I'm not saying that I'm okay with charging certain people extra for the same education. I'm not. But how do we counteract that type of thinking when it comes to international students and out-of-state students, that they're just money in the bank for the rest of us?
That's very fair. That's a good question. And I think, I'm not saying we have to charge the same price as current students. I think we need to do it in a way that's gradual, moderate, and predictable. Because there was an article from Cal Matters 4 days ago that said that with 50% of students at the UC and Cal State paying zero tuition due to financial aid, the higher tuition paid by international and out-of-state students is advantageous, and it kind of helps with our budget. But here's the thing, if we raise by too much, we will lose those students. And part of that article was the California State University system, nearly 14,000 international students, or about 3% of enrollment. This fall, the Cal State number has dropped to 12,000 students. Because if we keep on raising, that number will get lower and lower and lower. So if we do it by a gradual, moderate, predictable way, and maybe even 5-year plans, so students can plan ahead, right? That's a smart idea. I've seen some community college districts do that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay, no, thank you for that. I just, I've heard some of the talk on the other end of, yeah, but thank you for that.
Any additional questions or comments? Senator Hill?
Yeah, so I'm curious in a couple ways about this, because I'm always pro tuition increase anyway, so you got me on that point. But the main thing for me would be the transformative nature of Fresno State as a local institution for our underserved here, and that rhetoric in terms of that fund does come from other people, and if we were to de-incentivize, okay, lower out-of-state tuition, does that lead to the rhetoric of, okay, let's raise in-state tuition, and where it makes it less expensive for people from coming out of Reedley or Sanger or whatever? It's the prioritization, and my sympathies are just towards the Valley, and that's the local area I care about the most. But I'm wondering if it's the argument that's convincing to me is the idea of trying to keep these students coming from out of state to help us with this, to help everybody get an education, but then making it predictable. Is that what you're advocating for in the wording here in terms of more nuance in that regard?
Yep. I'm not saying lower it necessarily. I'm saying that in the future that we do it in a gradual, moderate, predictable way. Because these increases will have an effect on our enrollment. And by no way do I want a system or a situation that's going on with this, the UC system, where tuition is going up and up and up, right? But at the same time, it needs to be gradual, moderate, and predictable for our non-resident students.
Any additional questions or comments?
Just to build on Cody's point, again, he said gradual, moderate, predictable, and also the idea of setting a cap is really incentivizing. Just because if you look at what we're talking about, it raises from year to year, and then people can't plan out a 4-year degree. How are you supposed to plan out to graduate in 4 years if you don't even know how much it would take for the next year? That's kind of another main point that we were proposing here that I think Cody was trying to make on.
Yeah, and I'll just add on to this. This is not just a Fresno State issue or a CSU system. I've seen this in my time as a student trustee at a community college where my district raised it by $41 per unit. I've seen other districts raise it by almost $100 per unit, and I think that's ridiculous.
Could I ask a question? Is this cap similarly implemented though with in-state tuition, or is this?
Nope.
Just to touch on that though, the tuition, we've already got that, the next 5 or 6 years that the Board of Trustees already, or the CSU board has already implemented for tuition in general for all of us. So I think if our tuition, in-state tuition, changes, I believe that comes from the CSU. Am I right?
From
on
the
that?
Chancellor's office.
Yeah, so that's something that gets decided from up there, but the out-of-state tuition and the international tuition, is that not also the Chancellor's office, or is that per each institution?
Yeah, it's just solely for the Chancellor's office and it's universal. I would argue, and this is not in the resolution, that in the future we should focus on local, because what works for Northern California won't necessarily work for Southern California.
Right.
But
Right. Okay.
Any additional questions?
Just to add on the question, it's not changes that happen locally, but I think a part of this resolution is Danielle plans to submit it to CSSA, the Cal State Student Association, so we can advocate for it as ASI if this passes, all the way up at the CSU level. And I think our next meeting is in January, and so it would go to committee for system-wide issues, and then at next meeting it would go then for the board of directors to pass it, which then the executives of CSSA would advocate at the Chancellor's office and the CSU board of trustees. And at CSSA, we have 2 student trustees. They're at every meeting, and they take whatever passes or whatever's spoken out to the CSU.
I have one more question. When we have the entire CSU-wide tuition increases of the 5 or 6% or whatever, does that also increase the out-of-state and international tuition in addition to these other additional charges? Is that how that works?
So this is my first semester in the CSU
Okay.
system, so somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. You want to?
I can offer that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
So they stack.
They stack.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. That was easier. Yeah.
Any additional questions or comments? Seeing and hearing none, we'll now open the floor for motions on item 7.5, non-resident tuition resolution. Is there a motion on the floor? Senator Singh?
I motion to approve this resolution.
Is there a second?
A second motion.
Is there any competing motion on the floor? Any discussion or debate? Okay, we'll start with a roll call vote, starting with Senator Armstrong.
Yes.
Senator Camley?
Yes.
Senator Gutty? Senator
Presiding in. Before I continue with my rant, I'm going to let both of the election commissioners read out the election timeline for you of the order in which everything is going to go. And then after they're finished, I'll say a few more things, we'll take questions, and then hopefully move to a vote. So, and introduce yourselves too. As I know they already know you, but to the crowd.
Hello, everybody. I'm James Swanson. I'm one of the elected commissioners this year. I'm just going to go right ahead and start talking about the election timeline for this year's ASI election. So it's going to start February 2nd. That's when the petitions for the candidates are going to be available in the ASI office. And ideally, we want to hold workshops that are required for the candidates have to attend at least one, just so they know what they're doing. And ideally, we're going to hold 4 to 8 throughout that season. And again, ideally, one or both of us commissioners is going to be there to field any questions that any candidates might have. And then the actual petitions themselves are going to be due at 5 p.m. on March 26th. So about 2 months after that initial election season starts. And then on April 1st, that's going to be the deadline to verify the petitions themselves. The day after, we're going to email everybody the date and time for the all candidates meeting for everybody who qualifies, of course. That meeting itself will be on April 6th, which is the next Monday. And that's going to be from 5:30 to 6:30, again on April 6th. And then the next day at 8 a.m., that's when campaign season begins for real. And then April 9th, 2 days after, we're sending out a campus-wide email to everybody announcing dates, times, locations for election booths, things like that. And then there's going to be a social media blast that next Monday, just so that everybody knows what's going on. And then the 17th of April is the presidential debate. And that same day, we send out another email, just so everybody, again, knows what's going on. And also on the 17th is going to be the deadline to finalize the ballots. And then I can pass it over to Melissa, who will take over the rest.
Hello everyone, my name is Melissa Howdeggy and I am your second election commissioner. So voting will begin April 21st and it'll start at 9 a.m. and it'll continue for the next 2 days from Wednesday and Thursday till the April 23rd, and then voting will end April 23rd at 12 p.m. and then the votes will be tallied from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. and then the election results will be announced at 1:45 p.m. April 23rd, campus-wide posting and email announcing the election results will go out, and April 24th will be the deadline to dispute any election disputes by 3 p.m. And the deadline to submit a request for recount will be at 3 p.m. on April 30th, and the deadline to appeal will be 3 p.m. on May 7th. And then the election results will become final on May 8th, and then on May 13th, required turnover event will be held at 4 p.m. And on June 1st, an installation of a new ASI student representation will be held.
Thank you. Something that I forgot to mention is that something that is going to be different from last year is that we will have our 2 election commissioners and myself. We will be holding consistent office hours that we will be posting in January for students. They'll be, for all intents and purposes, we'd call them election office hours, right? And we'd probably be having them for about 2 hours a day, Monday to Thursday, if not Monday to Friday. Again, these times will be posted in advance. We'll also have different flexible options for students to choose from. Maybe they could schedule a meeting with me in times if they're not available during those allotted and pre-announced office times. So, without me going into too much of a tangent, is there any questions for us?
Question: the workshops would be different than if like ASI itself decided to do like learn more about ASI with your current officials, right? Like,
Yes. The workshops would be revolved around how does this handbook work? What do you need to do once you're elected? What does it look like? What are your responsibilities once you are elected? Because one of the main feedbacks that I've gotten over the years is you win, what now, right? So we'd like to cover that before they even turn in a petition, right? So that's why we'll have multiple workshops with varying times, just in case students can't make one time or the other, or they're not available on this day. And how before all of you had to attend an all candidates meeting, right before that you were verified or qualified to run. So it is adding a new requirement in that sense where along with the all candidates meeting, you need a workshop prior to, right? You need to be able to attend one of these workshops to be able to even attend the all candidates meeting, right? So it is one more requirement on top of last year, but I'm very confident with the amount of promotion we're going to be doing, and also just the availability of myself and our 2 election commissioners. I'm not concerned at all about that being a roadblock for students.
Any additional questions or comments?
Just if we were like as a person interested in helping with, say, like the outreach or spreading the word, like are we allowed to do that?
Let me actually clarify that real well, because in the code, this might be a surprise to some of you, but this is a great time for me to get this out of the way. ASI representatives are not allowed to endorse people, which is the biggest change from last year.
Okay.
You are allowed to promote the election, but you cannot endorse a candidate. You cannot table at somebody's booth, right? And you cannot be, and also another thing to bring up, violations of the election code are also they are not just consequences to the candidates running. That election code is just as strongly in consequence to you all. And it is not just simply a strike. If you guys violate the election code, which is endorsing a candidate or anything of the sort, you are under the jurisdiction of the Election Complaint Committee. One of the remedies of the Election Complaint Committee is removal from ASI and ineligibility to be part of ASI. So just keep that in mind, that it is not just in the bounds of a strike if you break any sections of the election code. Any questions on that?
But we could go and say like,
Yes.
like if we visited classes and be like, okay, maybe I'm your current senator, but hey, election season is here, or do you want to sign up to run, or like we could still do that in general.
If anything, I really need you to, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Just want to make sure. Don't want to step on because I saw that you have like some plans for like outreach, and it seems pretty thorough. But
Right. I mean, I appreciate because our plans on outreach really are, at the end of the day, these are our efforts on how to formally ASI as an organization, our social media, our emails, what kind of flyers we're going to be posting, right? But with everything that we do, we rely on senators to get the word out. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Martinez?
Could we not encourage a certain student? Like, I think you'd be great as a senator. Is that
No, there's a fine line there, right? But you should be encouraging students to run for positions and to become student leaders, right? It's a very different thing to publicly endorse them and say that you want them to win.
Okay.
Right.
So for clarification, we can't endorse at all, or can we endorse as individuals or as students? Just
Not at all. Right.
Senator Hill?
I'm sure there's more to this that I'm not aware of, but what's the rhetoric behind this change with preventing senators from endorsing other candidates?
This is a unique change, right? This is a unique thing from other schools, right? I would be lying to say that this isn't some of my own preferences being filtered in, but that's also how Senate works. I was very fortunate that the Senate passed it as of before the end of last year, right? So it is your predecessors imposing you with this new rule, including me, right? One of the rationale that I had with imposing these rules was simply the tumultuous nature of our last election cycle, and also having a hard time with defining in the middle of those troubles. It is a disruptive time within the Senate. When you have a group, if you have a Senate where you have half of them endorsing one candidate and half of them endorsing another candidate, it's not only very likely, but I've seen it by experience, that it does hinder the work that you do in Senate, because it causes factionalist tendencies to prop up. As a personal preference, I would rather you guys fight over projects, things that you disagree with towards the student body, and not who you think is best to be a student leader in the future. So that was my rationale.
One more question. Okay, and this might be nitpicky, but what if, say, like, we know somebody and we encourage them to run, and they want us to say, maybe mentor them,
Mm-hmm.
whereas and we're not endorsing them, but they might talk to us about, like, hey, maybe what should I do, or who should I talk to, or whatever. Or, like, where's that line of?
The only line that exists is you cannot publicly endorse the candidate, right?
Okay.
You cannot publicly endorse the candidate. It does have wording in there that you cannot, for example, like stand at their booth while they're tabling, right?
Okay.
Things like that, right? But in terms of like advice, encouragement, all of these things, there's no wording, there's no language in the election code that restricts any of that.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
Senator Kazan.
Point of clarification, can we change that rule to allow senators to endorse individuals?
Right, so right now, the way that it would work is that if you guys put it on the, if you guys wanted to draft an election code change, and then put it on the agenda in your meeting in February, right? It's an option, but you need a supermajority to do so at this point. It's only at the end of the year, once the election season has passed, or the election has concluded, because your guys' last meeting of the year, if I'm correct, is April 29th of 2026. So in that meeting, April 29th, 2026, if not the 30th, you guys would be able to change the election code based on simple majority. So that's the difference, right?
Any additional questions or comments? Seeing and hearing none, we'll now open the floor for motions on item 7.6, the elections timeline. Is there a motion on the floor? Senator Sevi?
I motion to approve.
Is there a second? Senator Martinez?
A second.
Is there a competing motion on the floor? Any discussion or debate? Okay, we'll do a roll call vote starting with Senator Armstrong.
Yes.
Senator Camley?
Yes.
Senator Carrillo?
Yes.
Senator Chobanian?
Yes.
Senator Durham?
Yes.
Senator Guzman?
Yes.
Senator Kazan?
Yes.
Senator Hernandez?
Yes.
Senator Hill?
Yes.
Senator Martinez?
Yes.
Senator Marcos?
Yes.
Senator Anales?
Yes.
Senator Pierce?
Yes.
Senator Renteria?
Yes.
Senator Rivera?
Yes.
Senator Sevi?
Yes.
Senator Singh?
Yes.
Senator Vane?
Yes.
With the unanimous yes count vote, the elections timeline passes.
Thank you.
We'll now be moving on to approval of the consent calendars. Moving on to action item 7.7. ASI President Soleil will present the consent calendar containing all proposed ASI committee appointments and removals. The Student Senate shall vote to affirm or deny the consent calendar, and the Student Senate has reserved 5 minutes for this item.
I almost forgot I had a consent calendar. So this is my consent calendar, some university-wide committees that came up. One of them actually ours, the undergraduate travel committee. That's from our, that was from the proposal that was passed, and so that's actually kind of ours. But it's also university-wide because we are the Division of Undergraduate Studies. And then the election complaint committee filing applications, guys. So that's 3, and I think we'll get some more because our amazing election commissioner posted a video encouraging it. And then we do have some removals for full transparency, and those removals, these students were reached out to multiple times. A student on here said they don't have the capacity to serve on our committees anymore. This is for internal committees. And another student hasn't responded since they've been appointed. And it's just for inactivity, just so that we can open up those committees on applications so that if other students are available and want to apply, they can. And so if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Okay. I'll now open the floor for motions. Is there a motion on the floor? Senator Chobanian?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second? Senator Rivera?
I'll second.
Is there any competing motion? Any discussion or debate? Okay, we'll do a voice call vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? The motion to approve the consent calendar passes. We'll now be moving on to item 7.8, Finance Consent Calendar. ASI VPF Guzman will present the financial consent calendar containing all proposed grants. The Student Senate shall vote to affirm or deny the consent calendar, and the Student Senate has reserved 5 minutes for this item. The floor is yours.
Okay guys, so there's only one thing on my consent calendar, and it is for sponsored activity grant, and it's for Fresno State Racing for 2,500. That is it.
I will now open the floor for motions. Is there a motion on the floor? Senator Hernandez.
Can I motion to deny this grant, as I see that the sponsored activity grant doesn't cover merch or clothing per guideline?
Is there a second? No? Senator Hazan?
I second.
Are there any competing motions? Is there any discussion or debate? Okay.
Could I just go into the discussion on it? It's, the reasoning behind it, right, is that they're requesting money to use it on something that is not approved of within the guidelines, right? So it's not going after the club as a whole, but just to be clear that they're intending to use it for something that's not approved of.
Correct. They could apply for Club Booster though, which would help them on that. But sponsored activity grant per the guidelines, no.
Cool.
So we'll now vote to deny the consent calendar since there was no competing motion. All those in favor to deny, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? The motion to deny the consent calendar passes. We'll now be moving on to 8.0, second public comment. Members of the public are again invited to address the Senate on any issue related to ASI or California State University, Fresno. Each speaker is allotted up to 3 minutes. If there is any public comment, please approach the podium. Thank you for coming to speak today during public comment. Can you introduce yourself to the Senate and what you want to present?
Lito. My name is Lauren. Sahuchi Saya Lauren, that's how I say it in my language in Choctaw. And I am here on behalf of NUM and on behalf of other Native students and disabled students on campus. We don't have any representation. I'm not talking about, sorry, this is my way, Native American Heritage Month. I mean the sense of within the Senate. I've spoken with some of you individually, and I know that you understand where I'm coming from in the sense that a year ago I realized we have senators, and I asked somebody how many Native senators are actually in the Senate, and they said I don't know. And I said how many disabled? They said I don't know. And they said what about you? And I said I don't know. And I said, well, how do we do this, this, and this? I asked the same person. It was at a booth. They probably graduated, and they told me, I don't know. Which is fair. They don't know. And they said, well, why don't you do it? And I thought, well, somehow they got voted in. My concern is that we would like, and I say we, myself, and people in the club, I can't speak for everybody, but I would like to think the people I do know, we would like to be included outside of Native American Heritage Month, and we would like to be included in like whether it's doing stuff for like veterans, like when they do things, because there is like the Veterans Center, or when it's like putting something together for possibly Mother's Day, like on campus, or like things with the food pantry, and it's like, well, why don't you just go and talk to them? And it's also the idea of we're so busy, all of us as people, but especially Native students. We're so busy, a lot of us are non-traditional students because we've come back. We're raising our kids. I'm raising my nephew with my sibling and taking care of my dad. We're so busy just staying afloat that we want to be involved, but we don't know how to be involved because we have nobody to meet us halfway. So I've come here to ask, as senators, how can you meet us halfway? And how do we know to be met halfway to be involved? Because we don't know how to contact you. And we don't know how to be involved.
Thank you for coming to public comment today. It's been noted and the cohort will take this into consideration. We appreciate you joining us. And
oh no, sorry. I was like, yeah.
Thank you for coming to speak with us today. It's been noted and we'll take this into consideration. We appreciate you joining us.
It's okay.
forward to item 9.0 reports. First item is 9.1 executive reports, starting with President Soleil.
Hi guys. So I have a quick announcement actually. I just found out today. So our government roundtable that was scheduled for Friday, I haven't gotten the chance to move it off the calendar, but an emergency came up with Councilmember Tyler Maxwell. So now it's going to be rescheduled to the beginning of next semester. Working on it. It's just finding a time and day now for us. It'll most likely still be on a Friday, 12 to 2. So it's really accessible to a lot of us because we have classes. But I just want to announce that, so don't show up for an event on Friday. You can show up to the office. The office is open. We love you. But don't show up to the event. I will send out canceling it today and send the email so you guys remember. And then Saturday, we have a community garden cleanup event at El Dorado Park CDC, I believe. It's a neighborhood with a lot of apartment complexes that's 5 minutes away from campus, and it has a little community garden, has fruits, veggies, flowers, and in the past, ASI used to collaborate a lot with them for philanthropy in that area. So we're trying to bring that back. It's at 12 p.m. until finished, but we're estimating like 2 hours. We'll have all the equipment, hot cocoa, snacks. Please show up if you can. I would greatly, greatly appreciate it, but if not, I understand it is a Saturday. And that's it for me. If you have any questions or want to look at specifics, please refer to my report, and I yield the rest of my time.
A priority for me this semester has been advocacy and efforts targeted towards resources. So with the help of Diana, we created these resource pens. We dropped some off in your sender boxes for you, but then if you want to take a handful for your friends or constituents, please feel free. We have a bunch of these in the office. Additionally, this semester, I've been inviting different resources to speak with us so that way we can learn more about what they do on campus and how they help students. However, next semester, if you guys want to hear from specific departments, colleges, or people, please let me know, and I can invite them to join us in this space as well. And then additionally, last exec committee, I created an umbrella initiative, which will fill our stands around campus with umbrellas for the rainy season. So starting in January, it's intended to kind of be a take one and leave one system as they're walking from class to class. That way they're not getting poured on in the rain, especially during this rainy season coming up. So yeah, if you could share the word on that, I'd be extremely grateful. And then with that, have a restful break and happy holidays with your family. I'll be online throughout break if you guys need anything. But with that, I yield my time.
Hey guys, so I really don't have anything new, just kind of doing stuff, but I am working on an initiative for graduate students. A lot of my friends are graduate students. A lot of the times they say they can't attend a lot of the events that we have on campus because they partake earlier in the day. So I am working on something for them towards later in the evening, but for next semester. And with that, I open my time.
Hello. So External Affairs Committee is trying to work on having a few events like a free book drive for students next semester. We're also trying to work on doing things like talk about policies like tacos and like policy discussions. But we're also working on a few other events like that, like writing Valentine's Day, like writing letters to your like senators, to like your other elected officials. So we're working on planning those events right now. I'm also trying to work out the file logistics with like Dr. Krall and then Dr. Mercado Lopez on having listening sessions with student parents next semester to like conduct research for like following ASI to like be able to advocate for policy implementation. So like that's something I'm working on right now, like how to structure a listening session program, like research thing, to like set up policy for future ASI. But yeah, also just a reminder to tell people to apply for the undergraduate research grant. It's up to $1,000 funding if people are attending academic, professional, or research conferences in the spring. With that, I need more time.
We'll now open the floor for item 9.2, sender report, starting with Senator Armstrong.
Hey y'all, still working on the Gen Code project. I know I've been saying that for a minute now, but probably gonna have to push that to the next semester. But other than that, I just want to say shout out to all y'all, the executive board, all the senators that have been putting in work all semester long. You guys have been doing great, and I can't wait to keep working with y'all. Happy holidays to everybody, and with that, I give my time.
Hello everyone. So I've been working with the Kremen Leadership Council to attend different Kremen centers and projects. We got to attend the San Joaquin Valley Mathematics Kremen Project movie event where we were able to network with faculty and learn the importance of math in school. And then I have also started sitting on the Kremen Dean Search Committee, and I and the Kremen Leadership Council look forward to meeting with the former superintendent, Dr. O'Brien, next week. So I'm going to say happy holidays, and I hope you guys enjoy your break. And with that, I yield my time.
Alright, so the
just right before break, and we do have our winners, which I will go ahead and reach out to once I have those prizes. We raised over 850 donations, so everybody that donated, I just genuinely want to say thank you, and I really, really appreciate it. And so with that, I yield my time.
Hi everyone, the parking survey is still open, and just a reminder that there's 5 free parking passes to give out for the next semester, so please encourage your constituents to take part. We already have a little more than 100 responses, so I'm just trying to collect the statistics on that. But besides that, for any questions, please refer to my survey, and with that, I yield my time.
Hey guys, I had a very productive meeting with Think Tutor, and there's a lot of little projects that we're kind of collaborating on with the California Climate Action Corps Fellowship. But other than that, for any meetings or projects, please refer to my report, and I yield my time.
Hi guys, I currently am not working on anything that's finalized, so for anything else, you can refer to my report, and I yield my time.
Hi guys, okay, I'm doing a toy drive, cause Chris, we all know my drive, like, it's a holiday toy drive. I have boxes across campus, so you might have seen one in the ASI office, downstairs, all over. So I just want to encourage you all to donate if you can. New unwrapped toys can go there, and to make it easier if you don't have any toys, because like who has toys? There is an Amazon registry that's currently live. So if you just had, if you wanted to donate, you could do the registry, and it'll ship straight to the office. And if you also had time next week, I would love some extra hands to help wrap the gifts. Every gift that's listed on the registry is going directly to a student at Kirk Elementary who specifically requested that gift. So you are literally making someone's holiday season. So I'm gonna encourage you all to donate if you can. If you can't, volunteering to help wrap the gifts next week would also be very, very helpful. But with that, I yield my time. Thank you so much.
Hi guys, for any report or for any projects, please refer to my report. I yield my time.
Hi everybody, my main thing was the laptops, so that's over now. Thank you for the help with that. Other than that, have a good break. Thank you.
Hi. I have a lot of ideas, not a lot of time, but I'm hoping next semester I'll have more finalized ideas. And the final project has been moved to next semester, but there's been great progress made, and so I'm very excited to see how that turns out when we come back from break. Other than that, good luck on your finals, and with that, you have my time.
For any announcements, projects, or meetings, please refer to my report. Have a great break, and with that, I give my time.
Hi everyone, so I talked to Louise about having like a finals event going on, but I didn't really have that much time to really see what I wanted to get, and then I kind of wanted for it to be like a bigger, so I'm going to be planning this for like the beginning of the school year, and maybe do something to like motivate the students, and like having them like maybe write letters to themselves for like in the future whenever they're struggling and can read it. So I'll be planning that out, and hopefully I get some pretty good ideas if anyone like has anything, and more than happy to like get their information. And other than that, good luck with your guys' finals and happy Valentine's. I get my time.
I'm currently starting planning for National Ag Week, which is into the 3rd week of March, so I got some time, but I'm trying to think of new ways to get the students involved with the whole event, and it's not just me kind of like throwing events at them, but with that I get my time.
So for the last meeting, I had brought up that I was reaching out to the Fresno Animal Center about having a distressed puppy event. They reached out and they said that there were a lot of adoption going on, so they said they would want to come back in the spring to finalize the date. So I will be talking to them in a couple of months to continue the de-stressing pet event. So once it's finalized, I'll reach out to you guys if you guys want to play on puppies. And with that, I yield my time.
Hi everybody. I've been working on getting a watch party event happening in the bucket after hours that they're regularly open. So maybe we'll see the bucket open past 5 p.m. for the first time in 20 years. Other than that, I've been working on getting the Student Athlete Council to go to the El Dorado Community Service event happening this weekend. And contacting all the students that filled out something regarding the Recreation Center and athletics on the Bulldog Voices survey. Other than that, I
been too much because I've been doing school stuff, but I have plans for the spring. Mostly plans to ask for money. So just a heads up, guys. People need funds. But I also talked to Maris the other day about maybe making some changes to like club funding to allow for like club travel. Because I know a lot of clubs have been like really limited on what they can do because they don't have a lot of avenues for travel options and travel funding. So hopefully that's something I can work with. If anybody wants to collab, let me know. It's just a whole lot of thinking and selling everybody on the idea. With that, I yield my time.
Okay, so I had like an eventful week because I was able to meet the dean, the associate dean, and the director. And I do officially have the green light to start working on the undergraduate research directory. And also over Thanksgiving break, I was able to go through a few, actually a 118-page document which was left for me by the previous senator. In which he mentioned that he had a couple of projects he couldn't like officially finish. So I'm just gonna work towards finishing those projects first. And yeah, I'm looking forward to a great next semester, and hopefully you guys have a great break too.
Hi everyone, so last time I talked about our STEM courtyard project, and so we're going to be presenting that to the CSM advisory board, and that's going to be on Friday the 19th. I'll be presenting it with the person who's in charge of all the plans and stuff, and there probably will be a request for money, so I'm still waiting on like an itemized list, so and then what else was I gonna say? Oh, the leadership council, we're planning on making like final survival kits. I don't know how much time we realistically have, but it should be something small and nice for our student body. So that'll be something to look forward to. But other than that, everyone have a restful break. Good luck on finals, and
Thank you, senators, for your report. We'll now open the floor on item 9.3, staff reports. Operation Manager Lazitza, the floor is yours.
Hey, well, so a few things. To all of the senators and the executives who have a second job through non-affiliated foundation source, you'll be getting your lump sum payments for this last fall semester of service that you've done. Also, just as like an announcement, I terribly hate those online digitally filled constituent outreach forms. They're too complicated, so we have re-simplified the form, and it is now only a physical copy. You can digitally sign it from a scan, but you must start it with a physical copy. If you have any questions, you can come to me and Manny. We'll answer you on how to fill out this new constituent outreach form. Again, great job this semester. You guys don't hold back any punches. You guys ask all the questions that you need. You aren't in a rush to get out of here. And it's a great indicator that you guys are invested in serving your students. So I yield my time.
Thank you for your staff report. We'll now move forward to item 10.0, adjournment. Does any member have any further business before we adjourn this meeting? Seeing none, I'll open the floor for motions on adjournment. Senator Durham.
I motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? Senator Carrillo. Are there any competing motions? Any discussion or debate? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? The motion to adjourn passes. I adjourn this meeting of the ASI Student Senate on Wednesday, December 3rd, 2025 at 5:48 p.m. As always, go dogs.